Hi guys, this is SDJRSNF88 speaking with another update on the WW1 trench railway. So as you know, it's been quite warm over the past couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to get round to doing as much work as I would like to on the layout, but there has been some major milestones reached, and also while the weather's been too hot and just to do anything really model railway wise in general, I've also been thinking about a few improvements that I could add to the layout in the not too distant future. So without further ado, I hope to go into a bit more detail in this update, so let's get started. So one of the biggest changes to the layout in the past few months is the addition of these two new trestle legs. Now, as you know, the original legs for this layout were made of wood, and at the time I was very pleased with them. But going to more shows more often, it has become apparent that disassembling and reassembling those trestle legs each time at every show is a very time-consuming procedure, and it takes about 20 minutes of the setting up and dismantling time for packing away and, of course, setting up the layout. So really I wanted something that was a bit more simple, that would fit in the car alongside the layout, was a bit lighter, a bit more durable, but at the same time something that didn't need disassembling when the layout needed to be moved. So anyway, I came across these. They were pointed out to me by a fellow WW1 modeller at the Small and Delightful Model Railway exhibition. I'll pop a little link to that video above on the top of the screen now. But the chap next to me had his layout on these trestle legs, and he told me where to get them from a well-known DIY store. And I must admit, they really are superb. They come in a flat pack kit form. They are £25 each, so it's 50 quid for the pair. And yeah, very simple to assemble. They fold down neatly. You can see there's some little latches on the sort of the triangles at the bottom there. You simply lift those up, the legs fold flat, and then of course you've got a pin that you can pull out, which you could adjust the height of these trestle legs as well. So at the moment these are just over halfway to the maximum height, but they can go taller, so you can actually have the layout completely eye level, or you can have the layout sort of knee level, which is at the lowest setting. So it's got a lot more height settings than the previous ones as well. So anyway, we'll take a closer look now at how these are attached to the baseboard, as the top bit did need a slight bit of modification to allow for the layout to clip onto them. But without further ado, we'll just take a closer look at the underside of the baseboard and how we've managed to attach it. So we're now looking at the underside of the baseboard, and as you can see, how we've managed to attach the layout to these new trestle legs is in fact very simple, and actually uses a few parts off of the old trestle legs. So what we've got done, you can see that the new trestles are a bit wider than the originals. Now this is not too much of a problem. It gives the skirt hopefully a bit more surface area to sort of come out, and hopefully it sort of acts as a bit of a barrier in a way. But it meant that the layout wouldn't sit perfectly flush on these boards. It either sit too far to the front or too far to the back. You can see there's these little marker things here that you can sort of turn round and act as like a little barrier to stop the layout from coming off at the front. But it would mean there's a great gap at the back, and vice versa. So the decision was made to try to find a way of clamping the layout perfectly secure to these new trestle legs. And basically what we got undone is we removed the top piece of the original trestle legs, and as you can see there are two bolts, one there and then one on the other side, and basically we screwed the original wooden trestle top to the new trestle top. And these could be unscrewed, so if we want to use the old trestle legs, or for whatever reason I need to use the old trestle legs, we can still use them. We've kept all the parts, they're just flat packed and stored up in the loft now. So the old trestle legs can come back out of retirement and be used if these ever fell or for whatever reason, and these can be attached. And also it means that these trestle legs are not in any way damaged or been heavily modified. It means that if I want to design another layout that could sit on top of these, as they are full width wise, that would not be a problem. So it's an absolutely perfect and simple idea, and as you can see the layout is solid on there. It's not moving an inch. One thing what I have done is these blocks were originally positioned right on the far end. That's where I positioned them to with the previous trestle legs. Now, another reason why I've gone for these new legs was because of a little incident at the last showing at Shepton Mallet. My father turned up at the show. I'm sort of glad it was him in the end that this happened to, rather than a general member of the public. But it did highlight a real issue with the previous legs. Being trestle legs, they're triangular at the bottom and they sort of stick out. And because they were right on the far end, they were sticking out into sort of public walkways and stuff. And anyway, my dad came along to the show to see how the layout was getting on, and he accidentally tripped over one of the table legs, which of course knocked the layout, and one of the locomotives did end up making a trip to the floor. It was a little Mini Trains 262 Baldwin, which, as you know, was my first trench railway locomotive, the layout that basically led onto this whole project. And as you can imagine, it was a bit devastating at the time when it happened, but after a quick check over the locomotive, there was no real damage to the engine. There was a little chip on the weathering, but apart from that, the locomotive, I was amazed, completely survived its whole sort of ordeal of making quite a substantial drop to a hard surface on the floor. But the locomotive was perfectly fine and was straight on the track and running for the general public literally within minutes. I had to apologise to my father because my father was very upset by the whole ordeal, and he thought he'd honestly just gone and wrecked one of the locomotives I spent quite a bit of time on. But I let him know it was perfectly fine, and he's more than happy. So that was another reason why these legs are a major step forward on the previous ones. So it makes operations safe as well, and of course stops accidents like that from happening again, hopefully. So yeah, let me know what you think of these new legs. Do you like them? And yeah, would you like to see how they get folded up in another video? I honestly do not know. But anyway, leave your comments, and I will now discuss a plan that I have for the layout, which is going to be quite a drastic change. So yeah, so bear with me. It'll be quite a long segment, I would imagine, discussing this idea, but I hope it will be of interest, and I hope it will be a vast improvement for the layout in the future. So one of the major changes I have planned for this layout is actually getting round to fully boxing in the layout. At the moment, the layout stands like this, with the main scenic area at the front here. Then you've got the back scene, which basically doubles up as the separation from the fiddle yard and the scenery, but also as well it supports the main lighting rig. Now this is all fair and good, it's nice and light, but there is a slight problem. When the layout's being transported to shows, I have to put a bed sheet over the top. This is obviously to protect it, depending on the weather conditions outside, but also it helps keep dust and other things off the layout. Now the only problem is, it is a two-man job to get the sheet over, just to make sure the sheet doesn't snag on any of the scenics on this side. As you can see, if I just come down here, you can see we've got quite a few delicate little plants here and figures, and at that end we've got the raised area as well. So the sheet does rub on this, and it has become evident over the past few shows that it is starting to erode away at the edge of the scenery. Another thing is, it just doesn't look that sort of nice, and it really isn't sort of a permanent way of protecting the layout. So my idea is to finally get around to actually boxing in the layout. Now originally when I designed this layout, it was never really intended to be boxed in, purely because I was worried that it wouldn't fit up in the loft as it was. But as I found out over the past couple of months with taking it to shows, the layout does seem to fit in the loft with the lighting rig on. That was something that I was originally had designed to come off to allow it to be put up in the loft when being put in and out of there. But I found a way to get it up there with it on. So in theory, if I create a box that is this high, the layout should still fit in that area through the trapdoor. So my idea is to have two end pieces. So just getting the camera shot here, but as you can see, there'll be two end pieces, rectangular pieces that will be as high as the top of the lighting rig, and they will come all the way out to the front on either end. They also cover up the back of the fiddle yard as well, so there'll be an end piece to the fiddle yard. This will also make sure it's more safer for trains that are being stored off the tracks in the fiddle yard as well, so they don't make a trip to the floor. Another thing another board that will be added to it will be, of course, the top board. So there'll be a box on the top. This will obviously protect the layout when it's being stored in the loft, so things can be stored on top of it. And also as well, it will hopefully protect the layout from the elements when it's being transported in and out of shows. Then the main feature will of course be like this window at the front. So there'll be another huge great panel that will go on the front, which will connect to the two end pieces and the top piece. And then there'll be a lovely rectangle cut in there, sort of like a picture frame, which will reveal the whole layout. Now my idea is to continue on the back scene on either end, so there'll be a continuation of this back scene here along there, and also on the other end as well. Ideally I would love to find a way to curve it round, but since I've already started doing the scenery, as you've seen it's already in place, it's going to be a bit hard to do that. So I'm going to have to try to find a way to camouflage this sort of the way that the back scene joins on at either end. But hopefully that will work out well. One good thing about using this boxing in method is that the lighting rig, as this is sort of the marker point, will stay in place. Obviously this eye guard or whatever, this sort of like shield that I put on there to protect the light being shined into visitors' sort of eye lines, sort of obscuring their vision of the actual layout. This will come off, and basically the front of the layout, the new sort of portal, the picture frame sort of front will be this new sort of shield. So the lights will be hidden behind this, but the lights will, as they are, will stay in place, and they will still operate. Well, still be the lighting for the actual layout. Which it will hopefully be a nice feature, as I'm really pleased with these lights, and loads of people have asked where I've got them from and what sort of bulbs I've used in them, but really they're just the off-the-shelf IKEA lighting, and they really are superb, and it really does give a natural light effect to the layout. So the only downsides to having in this sort of box is that it won't allow as much natural light in as the layout does currently, because as you can see the layout is very exposed, so the light from all angles comes in and surrounds the layout. But of course, one improvement from this is there is a sort of an end piece. Obviously, so when you're taking photographs of the layout, you don't sort of see the layout go off into the abyss, and you see people walking around in the background, which is good from my point of view as well. But also as well, it means that the layout is far more better protected, and that is what the whole aim of this process is to make the layout more protected and easier to transport. Of course, when the hole is cut out on the front, I will keep that piece, and then when the layout is being stored or taken in and out of shows, you just simply plonk it as a door into the slot, turn two levers, and hopefully it will stay in place, and then basically the layout is boxed in, so the whole scenic area should be protected from dust and other bits and pieces as well. So that's the idea. When I get round to it is another thing. Of course, it's just trying to find the time in between shows. The layout's got a couple of exhibitions coming up this August, so I'm not sure whether to try and get this done beforehand or to wait until a more quiet period, or maybe even possibly next year. But then again, as you know, the winter months or the build up to Christmas is sort of the exhibition season, especially September, October, November, and the layout, I'm pretty fully booked with this layout, so it's sort of, do I have the time to do this now and hopefully keep the layout better protected, or do I just leave it as is for now and just hope that the method I've been using so far just keeps the layout safe for the time being until I get around to doing it. Of course, another thing I'll have to do is remove the attachments for the Velcro strips there for attaching the skirt that's on the layout at the moment, but they will of course be reattached to the front. I guess another bonus point of having the box as well is it just looks a bit more professional. I could put a more professional nameplate for the layout on there, and of course all the little badges you get from various shows, there'll be a lot more surface area for those. As I've got a fair few stored in the stock box that I still haven't got around to attaching yet. I've only got around to attaching the first two. So that'd be another nice feature as well. So please do let me know what you think about this whole idea about boxing the layout in. I think it'll be a vast improvement, and hopefully it'll make the layout stand out a bit more. But let me know what you think, and I'll see what I can do. So there we go. I guess that's all for this update. Sorry it's been a lot of talking and not much physical work to the actual layout itself apart from the legs. Really, as you know, it's just been too hot to do any model railwaying whatsoever. So I've sort of resided to the living room doing little tiny bits and pieces on another World War One themed project that I hopefully will be able to reveal very, very soon. If you're of course following the SDJR7F88 Facebook page, you will know what this project is. It's in fact 00, but it has a major connection to this layout, and hopefully I might find a way of tying it in with the layout itself at some point. But it's a very, very interesting project nonetheless, and I hope to do a full video on that very, very soon. But yeah, apart from that, things that we'll be working on the layout itself, hopefully in the not too distant future, is I have been doing a bit of work to one of the Batman Baldwins that I have on the layout. As you know, it's been quite a dominant feature at the previous show, and it's gone down very, very well. And as you all know, I did a review on that model. It's absolutely superb. But I've been improving things on it lately, most notably of which it's the me and my father. We had ourselves 3D scanned, and we are now on the footplate of the locomotive, so keep an eye out for that when it's running at shows. But also recently, when there was a brief cooler spell, I managed to get up into the loft and fit a sound decoder to that locomotive. So now the Baldwin is DCC, digital, which is quite something. And this is something I hope to show on the layout in the not too distant future. But like I said, it's just too hot to go up in the loft and start tinkering around with it at the moment. But I haven't had the opportunity to run it on the layout. But I hope it will run perfectly fine, and I'll just have to see how this layout works under a dual system. So, i.e., like what I've been running on my layout in the past, over the past couple of months, where I can switch between analog and digital thanks to that GaugeMaster Tech 6 controller. I'll pop a little link again at the top of the video now for my review of that controller, because for those of you thinking about going DCC, but just want to slowly go about changing over your stock, that controller really is perfect. So I'll pop a link for that unit at the top of the screen now. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this update, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you a little video of that Baldwin very, very soon. And of course, I'll keep you posted on the process of this new and exciting project. But do check out the SDJR7F88 Facebook page for all the latest news and information, and you might be able to see a bit of a sneak peek of that project as well. So anyway, this has been SDJR7F88 speaking, and thanks for watching.